How we feeling? Goodness me! Well, welcome, folks. What a lovely day to be part of the congregation. There's a very special event about to happen. It's going to be amazing. Thank you first to HMV for having us here. This is a lovely spot. Absolutely. Thank you to all of you for purchasing an album and also submitting some amazing questions. So we're going to have a chat here in a moment. It's going to be a wonderful time. So thank you all for being here. Now all that's left for me to do is to introduce, and hopefully you can go wild and crazy, for Tobias Forge of the band Ghost.
Hello.
Welcome. Have a seat when you like.
Thank you. I'm just gonna put these here.
Well, hi, folks.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Marvelous. Now, we're going to have some questions from the audience, but to get us started, I was fortunate enough to see... Wow. I know, it's
I
live.
can't see anything anyway.
I was fortunate
That's what
enough
they say
to see the London O2 Arena ritual that happened earlier this year as part of the Skeletor. It's very good. It was a spectacular show, and to begin, I was wondering, what kind of level of design input do you have in terms of the visuals of the production and the staging? Because it seems like it progresses with the set lists in a kind of important way. How involved are you in that side of it?
Very. I mean, this time around, we purposely worked together with sort of people from the outside. So I had a friend of mine named Amid, who's done several videos with us over the years. I mean, he did Year Zero, he did Secular Haze, Spillways, and for this album, when I made the album, I asked him if he wanted to come back and do a few videos, and then as we were closing in on start doing the show, I asked him, like, would you like to partake? I don't know exactly with what, but I'm leaning towards doing the one thing that we haven't really done, which is sort of a visual, content thing. And I would love to have you in there because we work very well together. And he said, I've never really done stage. So, I mean, he's done with theater before, so he obviously has he used to be, he still is, but he used to be in a band. But they were never really big with the production. They were a big song band, but they were never doing production. So he was like, I would love to bring in another friend of mine, he said, Tobias Rolander, because he's very, very professional with that. So enters Tobias Rolander, who I met before but never worked with, he usually works with quite big artists like Madonna and Beyonce, like big stuff. Where he's usually asked to come in, there's usually like a blank paper. It's just like the orders is just like, come up with something cool. Whereas he came in and obviously a lot of the rules, whatever, like a lot of the setup is already, there are certain guidelines, there are certain things that I've already designed that I want to keep, like the layout of the stage, bits and pieces. But you know, when he came in, he was like, what are set in stone, what's set in stone and what's not? I was like, let's talk. We could talk about anything. And I had a long list of things that I've wanted to do for ages that we have never really been able to do. And one was this idea of a several act set list that we had done it previously in a different manner, where we had two acts with an intermission. But that was not what I meant. I meant I want the show to start in one way, and then I want it to transform to a middle part, and then it ends with something, the biggest. And then we just started talking. What is that? What are we talking about? But that was, pick a mix of things that we've already done, a mix of things that I already had on the list, and things that was suggested based on, him and Amir's ideas and what do you call experience. So.
Well, it was quite spectacular the way that unfolded. And there's one song in particular off of the latest album, Umbra, which seemed built for the live stage. You've got the dueling guitar solos with the keyboards, but also there's a moment where you come out of the stage holding aloft a cowbell and then handing that over to... what is the significance and importance and value for you of the amazing sound of cowbell that was so key for that song in Umbra?
Well, see, this is how I work. More cowbell, of course, the classic. When I wrote that song, and together with Max Giron, it was an immediate idea that I had when it was introduced. Like, we should have there needs to be something. Of course, a cowbell there. Oh, I have a cool idea for that. And during the first day of writing nowadays takes place in the studios. You're sort of in a studio environment when you write, and at the end of that day, basically, I was like, I had that idea. That's going to be a part of the song, a part of the show. Let's hope that the song is liked. And fortunately, that went down pretty well. But that is how I see things in when writing. This is going to be great because in this song you can have that, and I mean it's the same thought. There's a lot of examples of similar things like that. Where in Mummy Dust. When it was what are we gonna, there's gonna be a solo here, but it's just a guitar solo feels naff. What should it be? Keytar. Oh, a keytar. And then, then you have a gag, and that's what I like. You want gags in the songs. And the same thing with My Asthma. This big guitar duel, and what is missing? Saxophone. Of course. Who can play the saxophone? Oh yeah. But he's dead. No, he wasn't dead at the time. He was not. So that evolved. We evolved. We're progressive. So, or just deal with it. Yeah.
Splendid. Amazing. Now, that album has been out for some time now, so it's had some time for the congregation to enjoy those songs. Has Ghost noticed particular patterns in the non-singles that fans were saying they connect in particular with, or does each song have many fans that say that's their favorite one?
I think that the overall chatter about the record seems to have been very, very mixed. Where people tend to enjoy certain songs and absolutely loathe others. But this is how it's always been. Ever since the first record. So that's where I have to enjoy a certain amount of Teflon that you've grown onto your skin, because I'm so used to hearing that we've completely changed. But it's always like that.
Ghost is not matter.
No, there you go. No, that's true. But there's no such album as Melior either, so that's how I want it to be. You want to evolve and you want to do new things, and And that means that you get a certain amount of slack for it. Well, it helps mine too. So. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
In terms of the performing live of the newer songs, is there anything in particular for the ones that have been performed live that are particularly satisfying for Ghost to perform, that translated live in a way that was perhaps even better than hoped?
I think a big, maybe not a shock, but like a very positive surprise for us as the tour started was that the new songs, we only really played four new songs on the tour.
Thank you, fact checker.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Right.
It's important.
I'll lean into that later because I might say wrongful things here, incorrect. And we were surprised that they were so appreciated. And because at a certain point you will come to a level in your career when people don't really care about your new release, and they might sort of acknowledge that there's a new single, but as you know, in most older bands, somehow we're regarded as a new band, even though we've been around for 15 years, like professionally touring. But never mind. But we're still sort of a new band, I guess. We're in the new world, and most older bands that I like and love are I don't really care about the new music, and that's not a diss. It's just that somehow it doesn't really like. I'm sorry, what?
I also did not catch that, but thank you for your
I'm
participation.
so sorry. It sounded cool. Please update me with what was said.
It's a meme. It's a meme.
Oh, Palpatine's return. Okay, well, thank you. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
It was very specific in your defense. Fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, well, anyways, what I was supposed to come to was that at a certain point, people don't care about your new stuff. And for us, it was a great moment to hear that fucking people do care about a new record.
Confirmed.
Well, one day I will be sitting here with Fabiol, and it won't be as important. You five there. Okay, cool.
One thing that has sparked my curiosity is in the music videos of Lacrima and Satan Eyes, there's a kind of practicality to the effects, which I think is amazing. The reveal of the monk transitioning into Papa, was that, I know this is very nerdy, but was that a camera rotating around a person, or was that the person flipping in front of the camera? Or is that movie magic and we may never know?
Well, we're not going to ruin it for you.
Good answer.
Thanks.
You got saved. And then in Lacrima, there's a moment where Papa suddenly has wings, which was a great surprise. I thoroughly enjoyed. What's been the inspiration to have the kind of vampiric aspect in particular for this Papa? Because there's even a line in the song about like a vampire would. What's the kind of inspiration there?
I mean, there's always been a vampiric. Well, I mean, obviously, when we're dabbling with goth here, so that's what we do. So that didn't feel like a far-fetched aesthetic. I think in this particular case, in this video, I mean, we've had we've had wings as a prop before for 2 albums, I think 3. For a few albums, 3 now. And
Thank you, fact checkers. Appreciate it.
and so I think that was just a way for us to not to ruin any movie magic here, but when you make a video, usually before the whole tour starts, that might be a moment where you also take photographs for the cycle for the magazines and all that stuff. So you have this big area of things there to just try on and put on, and some things work and some do not. And but for a video, you can sort of try them on and.
And finally, before we get on to the audience questions, I was wondering in terms of the songwriting for Ghost, given there is a specific kind of thematic lore to it, does that help giving a starting point with songwriting, or is there challenges that are posed by having a concept to kind of dwell within?
No, I mean, I think it's all writing a song can be challenging, but when you write a group of songs that are supposed to be sequenced together, it is almost a detective work where you have to solve a puzzle, where any new addition over here might affect things over here, and that's at least how I work. I know that some other artists don't do that. They just write, oh, here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, and then you just, okay, 10, cap. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sure I like a lot of bands that does that, but I am more conceptual in my, I think my writing period and the way I think about a record might even be more conceptual than the final outcome. In terms of like lyrically, it's not like a King Diamond record where it starts with, you know, a story chronologically go through and it ends. But thematically, even when I'm writing the last song, there might be something that is injected into the last song written that excludes a part from another song, or pushes out like one track, or I write a song that's like, no, fuck, it's too similar to that, and then you just push it forward. That has happened almost every record where there's something that's sort of left aside because it didn't fit or didn't gel, and then you do it later.
Fair enough. So that was an oh, that poor song. Oh. Cast aside.
Oh, Satanize was one of those.
Wonderful stuff. Well, thank you very much. We're going to now go into some questions. But there are so many questions asked, so well done. Great imagination, folks. You're welcome. Okay, the first one here from Misha. Now that you've done quite a few shows with Perpetua, how would you describe their personality? They're here tonight.
I mean, that's like trying to explain your own personality. Like, I don't know. It's up to for you to define that. I think it's hard. I mean, I can't. There are a lot of thoughts and ideas and facts about how the previous papas were that I don't feel like I'm really part of. Because it's like I can't really be objective in how oddly as that sounds, I guess.
No, that's
However
fair.
odd that sounds.
That's fair.
I'm working on the English.
They're doing great. That's, yeah. Anyone else? They were good with Swedish now. Next question here from Amy Price.
I wonder if she's here.
No, I didn't hear anything. Were there any specific albums or songs that inspired Skeleton?
Well, you'd think. No, I mean, I've said this a couple times, and I don't think that people have really understood that, because I was asked this early in the so unsexy words, but like in the cycle, which means you make an album, then you promote it, and then it comes out, and then you know, when you're a new artist, for a long time you do interviews throughout the whole thing, whereas I'm trying to not do that. But I try to when there was like a general, like, what's the general vibe of the record? Like, is there a thing that, you know, inspired you? And for me, inspiration comes from 44 years of listening to music. There's not like one specific thing, but if there were like one inclination that came, you know, a couple of years ago, or in, you know, sometimes vague concepts of records I've had for some time, and you know, when I did Meliora, I had a vague concept for Prequel, and that was me asking the producer of that record, like Klaus, like, I have this one and that one. Which one do you want me to focus on? And he liked Meliora better. Okay, so Prequel became later, and then obviously as time went by, Prequel became something different, like, or that was vaguely along the lines of what I wanted to do. But I had this one idea that came to fruition this time, which was a couple of bands. There was this thing that happened in the late 70s, early 80s, where bands that were 10, 15 years old at the time, old. Alice Cooper, yeah.
Yes, I think that Miss Amori, I always say that it's like the cough version of Love Gun. I think
Okay.
the same vibe, like
Yeah.
they're sexy and catchy. I love that song. I love this album, so it's
Yeah. No, Love Gun was my first record that I ever got. So there you go. Like, Love Gun has always been an influential album for me, regardless. That doesn't mean that I go write, you know, Christine 16, like a song like that. But which would be lovely now. Wouldn't it? Ooh. There are some Kiss songs that are absolutely fantastic when it comes to aging poorly. But anyway, where was I? Okay, so there was there were a few records, a few bands that have somehow inspired me throughout my whole life, more or less. There were two bands that had enjoyed a certain amount of success in the 70s, and they were, but you know, years went by very quickly. If you were big in 1976, you know, as soon as the 80s hit, you were out, unless you sort of transformed. And it was the same thing from the 80s to 90s. A lot of bands that was just like, you know, selling millions of records in 1989. In 1991, after September 1991, they were like, not worth anything. They couldn't sell out a club. So things moved very rapidly back then, and there were two bands, Uriah Heep and Blue Oyster Cult, that yeah. But they were, you know, they're mostly famous for some of their songs that they made in the mid 70s. And in 1981, they were both struggling with labels. They were about to get kicked out, and they were not very popular, and they were sort of just touring. And I think at that point, they, if anybody from either band is here, you can probably tell the story. But from what I gather, I think that they both of them went into studios at roughly the same time. With the you know, punk and new wave had really sort of destroyed the 70s rock, especially those gigantuan bands. You know, obviously Pink Floyd and Yes and Genesis, they were sort of untouchable because they were so big. But Blue Oyster Cult and Uriah Heep, they were not that big. They were big, but not that big. So I think that they really struggled at the time, and they were probably very afraid of what the 80s was going to be. But they were very inventive, they were very playful, and always wrote songs that sort of was super boogie woogie rock and roll sort of dance hall stuff to complete prog, strange, really heavy. Many ways very similar to what I've always wanted to do. Like mix, just mix. If you want to write a dance song, do it. If you want to write a boogie, do it. And then at least you can write it, and if it doesn't turn out well, you don't release it. You know? And I know that people might scoff at me saying, like, well, you shouldn't have fucking released that fucking last record. Anyway, both records that they made more or less simultaneously was Abominog, was Your Apes record, and the Oyster Cult made Fire of Unknown Origin. And I think that was regarded as very much their comeback record, because it has Burning for You on it, which was one of their biggest hits. You know, and it's a fantastic record. Really, like, mystical and weird and but still, like, with boogie woogie and so both of those records, to me, are very similar because it shows a band that, or both bands, sort of not really knowing what to do. But they have all these toys of new keyboards. You can hear, like, almost the same keyboards on the records, which were brand new at the time. Oh, what can we do here? And it's kind of like when you listen to Thriller, Michael Jackson record. I know. But if you just disregard that and just listen to the record, it's almost comedic nowadays how, like, the first sounds that you hear on the record is like the new big seller synth sound A. That's the first thing you hear. So basically they just like took the keyboard out of the plastic. Here's a new thing, and they just like plowed through whatever was on there, and then you hear this sort of similar thing on those two records that I mentioned. And I liked that idea. I wanted to make a record that sort of felt like that, like a band that was sort of trying to navigate into the 80s. And I understand that might seem like a vague concept, but to me, that's like a challenge. That's like a cool thing. So, thank you.
It's turned out well. It's a fabulous record. Thank you for that. Moving on to the next question here from Laz. Hey. The no phones rule has actually changed the way I engage with gigs. I don't think I'll ever take my phone out at a concert again. Did you have any pushback on putting the rule in place for the tour? How did you get past any pushback, if you did experience any, trying to put that in place?
Ooh, pushback. There were. I think that the first initial pushback it wasn't necessarily muscular pushback, but it was, an inquiry to maybe reconsider. But that was more from the first person that you speak to when you're an artist is obviously your manager and your agent. And I have this idea. It's like, You sure about that? It will be. And then, of course, yeah. I understand that there is and then the agent comes and like, oh, I love the idea, but. Oh, okay. Because it also adds a lot of baggage to the administration part and the practical bit of the concert, and anything that makes things harder is always frowned upon. And of course, we had to really vet that idea. What does it mean? Who has done this before? Oh, not many. Okay, but who does that? Danzig does it. Does he? Now I know that, but I didn't know that yeah, but still, there's a phone in the room, and phone shame. But the thing is that there are a lot of artists that do that, and I know a lot of artists, a lot more than let people know, absolutely hates the phones. And absolutely, and many more. But there's one thing to phone shame people, and there's another to go through the rounds of the hurdle of doing what we did. And of course we had to weigh that, like essentially what people want to know, like what does it cost? What's the ramifications of it, time-wise and economically? Okay, that's not great. But who is opposed? I am vehemently against what I experienced, culminating on the last bit of our last tour cycle, where, and this is, just for complete transparency, we went obviously to all kinds of different countries where temperament differs. So with or without phones, there are certain parts of the world where people are just generally slightly subdued. But there are other parts of the world where people are exactly opposite and very engaged. And it really hit me when we came to certain countries where they have generally been much more enthusiastic. And you come out and, there's like 18,000 people there. And there's like 10,000 phones. And they're not even bouncing anymore.
Boring.
And you're just like, what is this? What has happened to well, disrespect? I don't know if it's disrespect. It's something. But this is the thing, that most people, most individuals, aren't thinking, putting any thought about how it is, because you think that, well, no one cares about what I'm doing. I'm standing here in the back. I'm just going to take a photo. I'm going to film a song. So each individual is not doing like a purposefully disrespectful diss, but the sum of it becomes a completely changed, especially for an artist who you come out on a stage and you're expecting, like, fucking people are going to rage. And then all of a sudden it's like, what the crowd that you've seen for, at that point, through 13 years, has just gone less and less and less engaged in exchange for these phones. What's that about? Like, what the fuck? And so I just felt that I came to a point where I'm like, I don't think I want to do this. I don't think I want to do this. If this is how it's going to be, I'd rather not do it. That's how worthless it became because of the phones. Because, especially a show like ours, I mean, I know that there are a lot of artists who, does a completely more like a free form show, and but we don't. Our show is pretty sort of nailed and arranged. There's obviously a certain wiggle room for individualism, but yeah, in order to do what we do, we need to have a certain regimen. And so what do we feed off of? Exactly. And that is crucial. That is crucial for us to be able to do the show. If you came into a dress rehearsal and saw us do the same thing but without a crowd, it's dramatically worse. But when you have an engaged crowd, it becomes better because you're two. It's it's an American pie. You want to have ping pong? You want to have someone to play with? Yeah. But it is exactly like that. It's an exchange. And if someone in the act of doing it just takes a phone out, so weird.
And she put the phone in between you. Yeah. And you told her to put the phone down, and she did it.
Right.
And it was like, I don't know, it was second-hand embarrassment. It was painful to see.
I'm just to be fair to whomever that was not the only time that has happened. That has happened so many times. And you have the front row exactly like this, a lot of people, and no one is looking at you. Everybody's looking at a screen. So technically it's like if I'm looking at you and someone's looking like that. You can't engage. I don't get a contact. And that makes it worthless for me because that's what I feed off of. That's what I need in order to do it. Me.
Having successfully put that in place for Skeletor, how did that translate? How did that feel for Ghost? Having the more engaged audience, did that pay off the way?
Oh, absolutely, fucking like life changer for the existence of the band. Absolutely. So we had a collective. Just walking off stage first night was just like, this is completely like changed the entire outlook of how this feels. So now we're doing that and
Do it forever.
we're working on it and believe you me, I think that there are a lot of bands that are looking at this and just like, okay, so how do we do that too?
Nice, well done. Yeah. We're unfortunately coming to the end of our time here at Tobias. I know. I want to be here forever too. This last question from Andrea. What advice do you have for younger musicians wanting to get into the industry while still enjoying the process of making music, making that central?
That is a multi-leveled question because I think that the big shocker for musicians and aspiring artists and people who want to express themselves and successfully through music is the once you start getting into a moderate level of success, there will come a point when you will have to repeat yourself. So it's if you compare it to someone who's really good at cooking food at home.
They were wondering. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. That's great. But there's a huge difference being at home cooking for your family or for friends, and oh, good. Continue doing that. I'm sure that's greatly appreciated. What?
My mom loves you.
Oh, thank you.
It's adorable or maybe slightly awkward.
Well, anyway, if you like cooking food at home, and there's a dramatic difference just leveling up from cooking for 2 people, cooking to 16. And try doing that every day, the same dish. And that's why I always compare what I do to, certain trades, but one of them being a restaurant. You have your restaurant that is known for whatever it is. Let's just say for simplicity's sake, it's Cajun cooking. So Cajun cooking, you can fake Cajun cooking by just having Cajun seasoning in it. It tastes Cajun. So it can be a bolognese, and it could be for shrimp, it could be pancakes. But if you're known for that, you need to stay within the premise of doing that. And the creative bit of creating or starting your restaurant is finding the spot, coming up with the idea, buying the furniture and furnishing and creating the place, creating the menu, tasting. And then you open up, and then you have to just repeat. And then you might introduce dishes. You might change something. But it's essentially committing to something that a younger version of yourself made up. And you have to, take care of that legacy that you've given to yourself. But, a lot of really big restaurants, for example, like a lot of big Michelin restaurants, they end up closing shop because they just come to a point where it's like, I have 3 Michelin stars. I can't get any higher. And then you just close. And then you start again. And some of them are really lucky to earn 1, 2, 3 again. But I think it's a similar thing. You because the thing with being in a touring musician, being in a touring band, is to enjoy so many other elements of being in a band that you can't really understand when you're just like writing home, or because there are so many other practical things that you have to dig as well, that aren't necessarily fun, that aren't necessarily your thing. And a classic example of that is, a lot of musicians. But Charlie Watts was known for saying that he really loved 2 hours on stage, but he hated the 48 hours that passed, between shows or whatever it was. And that's not great. That's not great if you feel like that. If you really want to be at home, but you have to just travel and find yourself miserable throughout these the 46 hours, let's put it that way. Yeah, counting. Which I'm not great at.
Where was the fact checker there?
Yeah. You let me say that. 48. But anyway, so I think that as far as inspirational goes, as far as it comes to creation and just doing that, do whatever your heart is telling you to do. Don't be afraid. But when it comes to practically getting started, there's really no ways around it. You have to rehearse a lot, and as soon as you can, you need to find some way to perform in front of people, and then you keep doing that. That's the hardest bit. Like, how do you go from being at home to, you might have to chew through empty pubs and standing on the street and play, but if you want to juggle, you have to pick up a pair of balls.
Getting that tattooed.
A wonderful, profound way to end. Tobias, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you. Love you all. Thank you. You want a mic?
Enjoy the rest of your day. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Can we go to Scruffy Burpees?
Yeah, I need a wee real bad.
Oh my god, I almost died.
I'm actually more worried about the shop.